Hi. Yeah, so I'm about to get the Tesla out here. So basically what you have to do, the car is underground now, and you'll hear it making sound in just a moment. Put the key in. I don't want to film the code, but
Japan's the world's fourth largest car market after China, US, and India, which recently took over Japan earlier this year. While the world's EV adoption is at 10%, here in Japan it is 5 times lower, closer to 2%. This is one of the lowest in developed nations worldwide. To find out more about what's happening here, I have Terry,
hi.
a new Tesla Model 3 owner who just picked up his 2023 long range and also a Tesla investor. We're going to hear about the challenges of EV adoption in this country and what Tesla can do to make EVs mainstream. Click subscribe to stay updated to more videos on Tesla. Terry, where are we right now?
We are in Shinjuku, actually close to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building, which we're kind of in the shadows of it right now. But yeah, downtown Shinjuku is where we're at.
So thank you for being here. You can see Tesla is saying go electric in the glass over there. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to go to a nearby park, have a conversation with Terry about Tesla and EV adoption. So see you over there. Terry, welcome to the channel.
Good morning. Thank you.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name's Terry. I live in Tokyo, live and work in Tokyo, and I just recently purchased a Tesla, my first EV. So far, I'm extremely happy with the Tesla. It's been a learning experience. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but so far, my wife and I are both really happy with it.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
How did your journey with Tesla begin, both as an investor and now an owner?
Well, it kind of began back when the coronavirus shutdowns happened back in 2020. We were stuck at home a lot, and I had never really been into the stock market too much, but once we were at home, stuck at home a lot with not much to do, and saw that the market had fallen, we decided to get into investing, which turned out to be a pretty good timing thing. And Tesla was the number one choice. So Elon Musk is just a magnetic personality. So I think the company is run well. He has great people that he works for. I believe in the idea of EV adoption. And really, that's kind of one thing that made me lean towards wanting to go do a test drive of Tesla in Aoyama when the shop was here. I wanted to see what it was like to drive a Tesla, to have that technology. And my wife and I both really liked it. At the time, we thought, it's a little bit too expensive. But we live here in Shinjuku, and not too long after that, Tesla opened up their first showroom, which is actually like right behind us here, maybe a 5-minute walk from here, close to our house. So we're like, hey, let's go take another look at this.
Yeah.
Right. And we saw the Model 3, we saw the Model Y. And another thing that happened at that time, which kind of pushed us towards purchasing one, was that the dollar-yen exchange rate started going up quickly. And in fact, it hit 150 to the dollar at one point, which made the Tesla so much more cheaper to purchase for us. So it was a process we went through. We looked at the Model 3, we looked at the Model Y. We were checking, and I think we're probably going to cover the parking issues here more. The Model 3 is a little bit more narrow than the Model Y, which is a big consideration, I think, if you're living in Tokyo. There's just not a lot of parking here, and some of the spots are very small, narrow. So what'd you say, 7 centimeters? I think it's like...
Yeah, I read there's a 7 cm difference in width between the Model 3 and Model Y. Now, if you're watching this in the US, you'll be probably laughing at us like, okay.
7 centimeters.
Yeah, come on.
But
3 inches.
It makes a big difference here. 3 inches makes a big difference here, because we were looking at some of the parking spots, even in because there's parking in our apartment building, but the Model Y would not fit. So we were kind of torn a little bit because the Model Y, I think it's a little bit raised higher. The seats are a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we ended up going with the Model 3 mainly because of the parking situation in Tokyo.
I also heard in Tokyo that it's not just the width, but the height. In some parking, like those automated parking, higher cars have to pay more.
Yes.
That's so unique. That's so I don't know whether it's a Tokyo specific thing even.
That's true. I mean, because where our car is parked at right now, it's basically underground, right? So it's like an elevator system, and the height matters, right? If it's beyond a certain height, and I want to say the Model Y was too tall
Yeah.
for it, also.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's why we ended up choosing the Model 3, and it's been a fun experience, really.
Let's talk about the price of owning a Tesla briefly, Terry. So Terry is a Tesla investor. In the early days of the COVID run-up, it was like March 2020, stock price really went down a lot. And then it had a good run, especially to mid-2021 or late 2021. Of course, right now it's down 50% from all-time highs. But still, anyone who invested in the early days of COVID, you were able to see at least some gains. And that meant that, we were talking about it earlier, getting a Model 3
Yes,
the Tesla was paid for by Tesla.
that's true. That's exactly what happened. I had invested in Tesla throughout the downturn in the stock market. So when when the yen rate went up to 150, and I had Tesla stock that had gone up to what I considered to be pretty high, I think it was like at all-time highs at that point. I said, no, this might be a good time to sell some stock and convert over to yen. When I looked at the prices, I think it was around $45,000 with conversion. And
Yeah.
you were telling me like it's outrageous where you're from as far as the prices.
Singapore.
It's
Tesla stock would be the $1,000 for me that you wouldn't even consider. The price of cars in Singapore, again, for like Terry's Model 3, again, we don't have long range in Singapore, just rear wheel drive and performance. Rear wheel drive would be at least 150,000 US dollars. You would buy a whole garage of cars
that's
here.
that's crazy. You could buy like 3
Yeah,
Model 3s here for that price.
that's a roadster.
Yeah, yeah. So so basically when we sold the stock and locked in the yen rate, it was basically Tesla buying me a Tesla. That's kind of how it worked out. So, and now I'm back investing in Tesla again because I think it's a great company. I think it's the stock is definitely a good investment. So, yeah, Overall, again, it's just the timing was just perfect for everything. It pushed us in the right direction to buy one.
Timing. On top of that, you also just got a price cut in Japan.
Yes, and that was something else too. They had a price cut, and there was the rebates, right, for Shinjuku and for Tokyo, which is like I think it's another $7,000 or something like that. So basically, it brought the price down to around $40,000 or so for a new Tesla.
In Norway, EV adoption is more than 90%. In China, EV adoption is more than 22%. In cities like Shanghai, it's about 41% EV adoption. Hong Kong has more than 50% EV adoption. Here in Japan, it's a lot less. Curious to hear from your experience, Terry, what are the barriers? And I wonder if the barriers in Tokyo, very space constrained, are unique versus the rest of Japan, where there's more land, there's more space.
Yes, those are both good, valid points. Tokyo is just space is a premium here. There's just not room to do a lot of building. So normally what they do is they either go up or they go down, right? So a lot of these
tall buildings behind us.
exactly. I mean, a lot of these buildings that you see, they'll have like 4 or 5 substructures where they do a lot of the parking and their shops and all kinds of stuff just because there's no space. So the challenge is going to be how to increase the number of superchargers here and not have it cost an arm and a leg, and put them in strategic locations where people will use them, because I think it'll definitely affect the sales here of Tesla, not just Tesla, but other EVs also.
So there is a lot of density here. Tesla has shown that it's possible to do it. They've done so in Hong Kong. They're building it up in Singapore. New York City is pretty dense as well. They're trying to build up more also. So I think it's feasible, but to what Terry mentioned, it's very important that the government is supportive. Like in the US, they just signed a deal with federal government to basically roll out a lot more superchargers so that they can open it up to non-Tesla EVs. So that's one of the conditions of getting federal grants. And the same is happening in other countries in Europe, in Australia as well. What's the situation like in Japan? How much is the government encouraging EV charging infrastructure to grow?
They're slowly working on it. I think that they're slowly turning the focus that direction now. Everything was taken up by Corona for so long
Yeah.
that was the priority. But now that that's kind of calming down. Like last night, my wife and I were here in this park, and it was just teeming with people. This is the first time since Corona, what? Wow, that would have been like in February of 2020,
Yeah.
that I've seen that many people out in the Tokyo area, right? So it's just now coming back to pre-COVID levels of I guess tourism and such. So I think that the government is probably going to focus more on EV charging infrastructure moving forward.
Mm.
So it remains to be seen. I hope they do more. It's definitely a little challenging to plan trips when you're outside. I have a long range, so we were talking about trips. I went to Kawaguchiko and I went to Yamanakako, which are both close to Mount Fuji. But we don't have to recharge with the long range. We can go out there. Yeah, it works out great. We went out there and came back, and I think we're still at about 30% or something like that.
Mm.
So yeah, it was never a concern. But once you move outside that range, if you're going to, I don't know, if you're going to drive from here to Osaka, it would be a little bit tight. I think you could maybe make it to Osaka on one charge, but you might be sweating towards the end.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the supercharger situation is like around Osaka. But it's, at some point, you're going to have to plan your trip around where the superchargers are at. And if I'm not mistaken, doesn't the Tesla have like a supercharger map when you put in the navigation?
That's right.
That you can list the.
That's right. I've spoken with a few owners here. There are superchargers along the major highway routes, or maybe just a 5-minute detour from the highway. So if you go into major cities, it is popping up more.
Mhm.
Again, it's not like the US where, let's say, you're driving from Dallas to Santa Monica,
Right.
and you get like 20, 30 along the way. Yeah, it's not like that yet.
Right.
Not yet. Terry was talking about cherry blossom. So this park on our right, it's beautiful cherry blossom trees. This is the last weekend for holiday before people like officially start work. Spring signifies a new beginning. Graduates start work at the beginning of April. So 3rd April on Monday.
Yes.
So it's a very big symbolic time. Later this morning, we're going to have a Hanami cherry blossom picnic in a park nearby. And it's going to be super crowded. Now, I believe that that's how the cherry blossoms around us signify beginning of the year, which is very important in Japan. EVs like Tesla signify the beginning of a more sustainable form of transportation. The big car companies, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, they're not fully all in EVs yet. Part of it kind of a victim of their success in the past where they were so successful in hybrids.
Yes.
The Prius was everywhere. Nissan did pioneer the Nissan Leaf. They've sold more than 500,000 cars worldwide. That's done well, but there hasn't been very concrete steps to say, okay, we're going to go full EVs. Toyota today is still saying, yes, we'll make more EVs with the new CEO, but we will also still work on hydrogen. Honda is saying, Honda's taking the
why?
biggest leap. That's a good question.
Why?
Honda's taking the biggest leap. They're saying by 2040, all cars EVs.
Mm.
And Nissan are working the way there. So you've been here for many years.
Mhm.
Like, what do you sense is the psychology behind these companies? Because I don't think it's a technical thing.
No, I think it's just that Japan has always been slow to change. Toyota, especially, they've gotten used to having such a big lead that they haven't had to make any changes for how many years? I mean, what, 40 years or so? They've been the undisputed leader. But yeah, now I think Nissan has probably been the leader as far as EV production goes here in Japan. They have a couple of models. They have a van that they come out with, and it's actually doing fairly well here. They have another small car that has a very small range to it, and I'm hoping Tesla does that sometime soon. Comes out with their own lower price
Giga
model.
Mexico.
Yeah.
It's confirmed. Giga Mexico is making a car. It's just when and which markets.
If you want to make a dent here, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that. A lot of people here are older. They drive to the market. It may be like a 20-minute drive, and that's it. That's what they do every day. They drive from their house, 20-minute drive back home, and they need something that's small. They don't really care about range because they're not going that far.
Yeah.
So, and they need something within their budget. So, yeah, they need something that's lower price, fits in the parking lot, and it's just convenient to use.
Mm.
So I think Tesla's kind of missing out on a little bit of a market there. And I'm thinking, like you said, Mexico is probably going to be the answer to that.
They're going to announce another parallel factory, hopefully somewhere in Asia Pacific, maybe Indonesia, maybe South Korea. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Mhm.
Terry is talking so much about price and also space. Model 3 is around like 5.8 million yen for long range, or 6 million yen. You can get a pretty basic Toyota for 2 million yen here. So the price difference is still quite significant. So Teslas are still perceived as a luxury vehicle in Japan.
Yes.
It's not as mainstream as California, where it's every street. Your Uber's a Model 3. That's price. And second, again, it's space. The Model 3 is still considered relatively big for some people. Now, there's a bit of nuance here because continental cars are popular. You see a lot of BMW, Mercedes. The Italian sports cars are popular as well, especially in
Yes.
Tokyo. And these are pretty big cars. So drivers can make do, but not everyone wants to put in the extra thinking, effort, or planning.
All right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And not to mention, I mean, if you have a bigger car like a Lexus or Mercedes or BMW, you have to, if you have the money to buy that car, you probably have money to spend to park it. Because the parking here is very expensive for 1 month. You're probably looking in the Tokyo area. Wow, what, about 50,000 maybe? Which I don't know. You're talking about $500 extra a
Yeah.
month for parking,
It's
right?
insane. Parking costs in Tokyo specifically is nuts.
Yes.
Some friends are paying like what, 5,000 per day in like the CBD area.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Tokyo's kind of like New York City. You don't really need a car if you're just staying domestically.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, I went without. I didn't have until I bought this Tesla. I hadn't had a car in 7 years, something like that. Simply because, and that's another reason that maybe the EV adoption has been a little slower here, is because the public transportation system is just awesome. It's hard to beat. As I'm sure you've seen since you've been here, it's very simple to get anywhere within Tokyo riding the trains, and they're always
Super.
on time, clean, quiet. So there's a lot of competition there, right? The trains are not expensive at all. So a lot of people think, well, why should I buy a car where I have to worry about where to find parking at when I can hop on a train, I can be there in 10 minutes, and it drops me off right at my location. So yeah, there's some other things too. It's not just parking, of course.
A lot of this, what we're saying, is very Tokyo-centric, when you don't need a car. Outside of Tokyo, in many parts of Japan, a car is pretty important. And then it just comes back to, again, consistency of charging infrastructure. Japan uses CHAdeMO in many locations. Teslas here use the Tesla connector, which is the US standard. This is very different from the rest of Europe and also most of Asia Pacific, where we use Type 2 for AC charging and CCS for fast charging. That's kind of like the global standard. It's not as nice as the Tesla connector,
Right.
but that's how you build a standard, for better or worse. Tesla has a lot of work to do, but still, even with very low EV adoption, Teslas make up about 2/3 of all EVs sold in Japan, despite the premium price range. As Terry called out, I think the next generation Tesla will be a much bigger hit here in Japan.
Yes.
What else is needed? Like, what's one thing that Tesla can really do to really move the needle for EV adoption in Japan?
Wow. Well, Tesla is not about advertising. As we all know, they don't do really, I mean, they depend on their brand and people like us to do their advertising, which has been fairly effective, I think, in America and Norway and China, probably other countries. But here, yeah, again, I don't know how you got 14 million people that live in this city and commute from outside the city. It probably doubles on a Monday, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what you can do as far as the Tokyo. Again, the piece here is going to have to be improving the charging infrastructure and showing people that although Tesla is a technology-driven vehicle, it's really not that difficult to learn. I mean, there's really only a few things that you use on the touchpad.
Yeah.
And the car basically drives itself. So and I think there's some fear there. Some fear. People are like, oh man, I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to drive. So, wow. Yeah, charging I think is a big key here.
You don't see much foreign brands in Japan. You don't see much like Hyundai, Kia, You don't see BYDs, MGs, which are very common EVs in most of the world. And because of that, you also don't see much advertising because the local brands are not fully into EVs yet. You go to US, you see so much EV advertising by Ford, by GM, by Rivian, Lucid, other companies, like March Madness, so much EV advertising. It's as if the whole car market's EV right now, even in the US.
Right.
In China, you see it from all the local Chinese brands. In Europe, all the continental brands are also focusing on EVs. So here in Japan, foreign brands are less than 10%. Are Japanese really favoring local brands? So some context here. The iPhone is super popular in Japan. I've seen like 70% of people in Tokyo using an iPhone. So it's not that foreign brands can't succeed. Apple has clearly demonstrated that it can, but many have failed. Like Nokia tried penetrating Japan many years ago, didn't work out as well. What do you think is the perception and story of Tesla here?
I think a lot of people don't really know. Again, because they don't advertise that much,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of word of mouth and seeing the cars out and about, people driving. I think most of the people don't really know about it that much. So what we're doing, I think, is what's going to really help the adoption. What people like you are doing in getting the word out around Tokyo is definitely going to do more to help Tesla. Elon Musk should be paying you guys or something. But I think that's a big key to it. I mean, there's probably a big percentage of the people here that they just don't, like me, they didn't own cars, they don't need one, so they need some kind of a motivation to want to get one. And hopefully, between like what you're doing and what the Tesla owners that you've been interviewing have been doing, we get enough people interested, there's going to be like a groundswell that comes up. I think at some point, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. When I start seeing the taxis here, I haven't seen it yet, but when I start seeing the taxis here converting over to Tesla, which I think is going to happen, I mean, it just makes sense, right? It's a lot cheaper to operate, the maintenance, the no gasoline. It's bound to happen. Right now, almost all of them are Toyotas.
Yeah.
And again, that probably has something to do with the home market.
That's right.
But yeah, when I start seeing Teslas being adopted for taxis, that's when I'm going to say, okay, yep, we're really skyrocketing.
We've made it. Terry has taken a lot of amazing photos. He's posted them on Twitter. Beautiful nature, beautiful mountains. What's your favorite road trip so far in Japan with your Model 3? And where are you looking forward to go next?
Yeah, we just went last weekend to Kawaguchiko, Lake Kawaguchiko. And we got really fortunate with the weather. It was a super clear day. And we decided to go for a drive around the lake's edge because there's some really good spots where you can see Mount Fuji. It's just beautiful. I mean, pictures really don't do it justice, to tell you the truth. But we found one spot there where there was a place where you could park, and the mountain was like right behind us with the lake, and it was just like, oh, this is this is great. And my wife's a good photographer, by the way. I mean, she took that picture that I posted. Thank you. I appreciate it. The trip itself, the autopilot works really well on the expressway for when there is traffic jam. Because I don't know how many of you have driven a car where you're constantly like hitting the brake, right? And your foot gets tired. You get in this position, right?
Yeah.
Your foot starts getting tired from maybe 2 hours of this. You can set the autopilot on there, and yeah, I mean, of course, you have to keep your hands on the wheel and be ready, but the car drives itself, and it's surprisingly smooth. I mean, it keeps a really good distance. There's not a lot of jerkiness as far as the brakes and acceleration goes. It drives better than a lot of people that I've actually ridden with, to tell you the truth. People in tailgate. So yeah, the safety is a big issue with it too. And something else that surprised me was the acceleration.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I had a 65 Mustang a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you're used to, when you step on the gas, you'll hear the sound of the gas engine. There's nothing. It's nothing. It's just like, it just kind of pushes you back in the seat. And, but I like having that. Especially like you're merging into traffic or something, right? And you need that acceleration.
Yes.
It's there. It's there in spades. I have not put the pedal to the floor yet because I'm a little worried about doing that. But yeah. So far, the road trips have been great. We stopped by what's it called, Daren. There's a really popular rest area there, and my wife and I like go shopping there. Probably the next trip we discussed going somewhere up north. My wife's going on vacation here in about week, and when she comes back, then we'll probably plan on something a little bit more solid.
That sounds lovely. So it sounds like Terry is very impressed with autopilot. It is a lifesaver on long road trips, start-stop traffic.
Yes.
Autopilot, it's not perfect, but it does so much. Again, it doesn't replace the driver. It's a great complement. Think of it as a co-driver, co-pilot. So cars stop in front, it will slow down. You can control your follow distance on the right scroll wheel.
Yes.
So there's so much control that's available. We don't have FSD beta yet in Japan, so the full suite of autonomy hopefully is coming here soon. But even in what we have today, autopilot's available in every single Tesla. Thank you, Terry, for sharing your experience about the perception of EVs here, the key barriers for EV adoption, and what Tesla can do to make EVs mainstream. You can also find Terry on Twitter.
Yes, you can.
I'll put a link down on Terry's Twitter profile, where you will see beautiful pictures about his road trips across Japan, taken by his wife.
Yes.
A good photographer.
Yes.
So Terry's a great driver, the wife will be a great photographer. And
co-pilot.
also does his perspective, because he's also a Tesla investor like some of us watching this channel. If you found this video useful, please click the like button, hit subscribe and stay updated to more videos on Tesla.
I'm about to get the Tesla out here. So basically what you have to do, the car is underground now, and you'll hear it making sounds in just a moment. Put the key in. I don't want to film the code, but there it is. Sorry.
This is very interesting. Oh, I noticed that your computer is in Japanese.
Yes. Oh, you can switch the language.
That's right.
Would you like to go for a short trip? Or...
Yes, please, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, let's make a circle kind of over there by the park where we were just at. So, on a Monday morning, it's not bad right now, but on a Monday morning, this is teeming with people, pedestrians, bicycles, people going to work. So it's much, much more of a challenge to drive here.
Another Tesla then.
Ah,
Got
yeah,
a silver Model 3.
Yep.
Seeing more on the road, slowly but surely.
I sometimes get the turn signal confused too here. I'm getting better about it now.
You mean different directions? Like...
Yeah, well, the turn signal's on this side, right?
Yeah.
And I'm used to it being on this side. So it's been more than once that I've hit it, and it kind of barks at me.
Tesla turn signals are like the Continental cars, the BMW, Mercedes. They're all on the left side.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the one pedal driving is also something that's kind of been different. It took a little getting used to. I'm used to it now. But if you let off the gas too fast, the regenerative braking will slow the car immediately.
Yeah.
So it's more of you're basically you're just controlling everything via the accelerator. The brake is only used for like situations when you're stopped at red lights or whatever.
So it's really convenient. For most people, they hardly tap in the brake. The brake pads last a long time. There's this very funny quirk in Europe because they salt the roads for winter. So the brake pads aren't used much during their annual inspection. Like in Germany after 2 years, it actually is not in the best condition. So Tesla actually recommends that you hard press your brake at least once a month.
Really?
Yeah. But if the roads are not salted here, I don't think there's a problem.
No.
Yeah.
No, Tokyo weather has 4 seasons, and snow is kind of rare here. Even if it does snow, it usually doesn't stick. Yeah, that's the park we were just in, right over there.
Another Tesla Model Y. Already saw 2 Teslas, including Terry's 1.3 now. Thank you for giving me a great ride on your Model 3. I noticed a difference. So this is a 2023 build. I've sat in like the 2020, 2021s on Turo in the US, friends' cars. Build quality, I think everything is solid. Is this a mod? Did you install?
Yes, yeah. AliExpress. Actually, we bought this at AliExpress. It's pretty convenient. It's a little holder there, but it gives you more ports.
That's right.
USB-C and USB.
Any other mods you made, like tints?
Well, this from Joa, right? So you can
Helpful.
put your iPhone
Yeah.
up there
Stick
if
it
you get the
like safe.
mag mount, whatever.
Oh yeah, for navigation.
Yeah.
It's convenient.
So wait for the people to get by.
A very well built car. This is white, which is the default Tesla color. Terry was sharing on Twitter recently. He wanted a red, but he switched to a white because of resale value. Tell us more.
Yes. Well, by far, white is the most popular car in color for cars in Japan, mainly because of resale value. I guess the color doesn't fade as quickly, so there's more of a demand for white cars here. So as a result, everybody gets, or a lot of people get white cars. Although the new candy apple red one that I guess they're painting in the gigafactories in Germany, that looks pretty sweet. That's a nice looking vehicle. So there are other companies making EVs, but Tesla's definitely ahead. If they can make autopilot work here, I think they can make it work anywhere.
I agree. So autonomy is, as Elon Musk say, is going to be the single largest asset value increase in history, because today our car is parked in the car park 90% of the time. If the car can drive itself. So if Terry's not using his car, he wants to just let it fetch. Maybe not strangers, but family and friends. This puts the car into much better utilization. And some people wouldn't mind using it as a Uber. Although like normal Ubers don't exist in Japan, it's more taxis. But you get the idea, robo-taxis around the world. Thank you, Terry, for today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for the invitation. It's been great talking to you.